got rid of all the bobs. We've just got one bob left, and he's the main bob, the one who goes flying through the air. There he goes. Because I want to do a thing with a script where I create more bobs. So I'm going to do it for the FPS controller. And what I was looking up was how do you detect when someone clicks a button or clicks fire or whatever. And I did a quick little bit of Googling. And I got to this page, input.get button. And so there's this if input.get button fire 1. So that's baked into Unity, so it's always checking whether you've clicked the fire button, and there is a way to set what that is somewhere in here. I forget exactly where. Could be Windows inputs, I can't remember, it doesn't matter, because the defaults are fine, you know, WASD and click the button to fire and that kind of thing are just normal. So we're going to do that. So let's just go and have a quick look at this script and see what it does and see what we can take from it. Remember, again, it's public class example class, so we're not going to want to copy this across. We've already got some of our code here in oh, we haven't actually made that script yet. I'll do it in a second anyway. So we've already got this public class, whatever we call it, and then these are the things we want to do, and we've got this update on every frame. It's asking if we've clicked the fire button. It's also doing this thing to do with time, and that what it does, it's saying you can't click more than every half a second. So next fire is 0.5. We'll leave that in just because it's kind of easier to leave it in than take it out, to be quite honest at this stage, but we can fiddle around with it later. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly copy. I think it all will just work if I just take all of that lot. Now when I'm copying and pasting, notice I'm being really careful about the brackets. I have not included the top one or the bottom one for this class, but I have included this one which matches up with this one and so on. Super important you get that right, otherwise it just won't work. So copy that little lot. Now I hadn't made a script yet for the FPS controller, so let's do that. Add component, new script, and I'm going to call it shoot Bob, because we're going to shoot Bob in the sense that we're going to shoot him through the air. Create an add. And wait a second for it to change. There we go. I've already got one. That's strange. Anyway, so if I go into shoot Bob, might have to delete that other one because that's going to cause a problem otherwise. See you in a minute. Shoot Bob, where is he? Shoot Bob. So we've got all of this stuff which is inside the class. Remember, that was the opening and closing brackets to define the shoot Bob class. So I don't want to delete those, but I do want to delete everything in between them, and then paste. And has anything gone red? Nothing's gone red. It may work. Now what it's done as well is made this public game object projectile, and that's the thing that's going to be fired. So if I save this and go back to here and click on my FPS controller and look at what I've got there, I don't want this twice, do I? I'm going to remove component. So I've only got one shoot Bob script. Might work, but it's just best to be careful. So it's come through as projectile none game object. So it's not going to shoot anything yet because it's not. We haven't said what to shoot, but we're going to shoot Bob. So dang it, clicked the wrong thing. So I'm going to drag a Bob over to here and drop it there. So that's the Bob that I'm going to shoot. So if I run the game now, and you should see Bob's flying through the air. There he goes. And if I click, I'm making some more Bobs. They're actually going straight up in the air because they haven't been given any kind of at the moment. But we have got a little bit of a problem. I am clicking at the moment, and I don't know if you can see down here, it's saying we've got some errors every time I click. And the issue is I'm trying to create Bobs, but I've just destroyed Bob because I've got this function on Bob where he remember Bob demo, when his Y value is less than 1, he destroys himself, and then so in the FPS controller it tries to spawn a Bob and there's no Bob to spawn. So we're going to do something about that, which means we're actually going to make our own prefab Bob, which will be really useful for this exact situation. Am I going to do that right now? Yes, I am, I think. So in my assets here, I'm going to create a prefab. And where is that prefab? And I'm going to call it my Bob prefab. And if I just take, oh, the game's still running, isn't it? Okay, right. If I just take my Bob from up here and drag it onto my Bob prefab, that has now created a single Bob prefab object. So I could delete this one here, and it doesn't matter because I'm using a prefabricated thing that I'm going to shoot each time. So if I go back to my FPS controller, and instead of having projectile Bob, which was this Bob here, I take my Bob prefab and put it there instead, and fire that. And there goes the normal Bob. And then if I click, I'm making many more Bobs. Off they go. They're going straight up in the air. They're not actually firing outwards, interestingly. We could fix that, couldn't we? Shall I bother? Maybe not right now. When Bob is instantiated is the word that we use when we spawn something. So in the Bob demo on start, you get a thrust X, thrust Y, thrust Z. It looks like I've got rid of those. No, they're still there. Not quite sure why he's not being fired forwards. Oh, doesn't matter. I can fix that later. Another Unity little bug. Anyway, what was I saying? I don't know. You know what might be fun? Let's have a few more Bobs. I'm going to have no fire delta. I can shoot as many Bobs as I want, as often as I want. Let's see what happens. Can't see this going wrong. There goes Bob, and if I hold down the fire button, so many Bobs. In fact, the problem there was they all spawned on top of each other, and being physics objects, they do this thing where they just kind of scatter. It's raining Bobs. I'm done here.